Hey everyone, it's Michael Taylor again, bringing you Race 3 on the Sim Cup season. This time the series actually was in Darlington. This is the second time the series has been to Darlington, and last year Matthew Sparrows won, so let's check out what happened today. Alright, the starting grid is Carson Fitzpatrick, the rookie, on the pole. Last week's awful driver of the week award winner, Joey Walkowiak, is starting second. Kevin Richmond third, Zach Dorian fourth, Ricky Brackett fifth, Patrick Cobb Jr. sixth, Reed Conway and Michael Adkins start in row 4, and then row 5 is Dylan Fisher and Jason Severn. Moving on, row 6 is Drew Tabulov. Last year's winner, Matthew Sparrow, starts beside him in row 6. Anthony Wick and Carl Flint, row 7. Jim Powers and Tim Bowen start in row 8. Brendan Irons and Daniel Alderson start in row 9. And last week's winner, Davis McAfee and Scott Unger, start in row 10. And bringing up the field in row 11 is Matt Zadici and Tommy Morello. So the Denny's Southern 400 at Darlington is going to be 367 laps. It was 77 degrees and cloudy, and winds were at 9 miles an hour northwest. So without further ado, let's show you what happened. Alright, so lap 1, the cars came down to take the green flag. And into turn 1, Joey Walkowiak goes wide and passes Carson Fitzpatrick, who was driving along the bottom of the apron. And that stayed pretty much like that until lap 15, when Patrick Cobb Jr. spun out and backed it into the wall. He backed it into the wall, then came around and hit his passenger side front against the turn for a wall. No, he was the only one who really was affected by this. I think Ricky Brackett was running in 6th at the time, but was slowing everyone down, so there's about a 2-second gap between Cobb and Brackett. But when the 71 finally regained momentum, he slowed down the 2 car, which left Tabulov off the pace when Cobb went into pit. So from there, Tabulov was battling an uphill battle. Alright, so lap 42, you can see Joey Walkowiak pulling away from the field with Fitzpatrick, Richardson, and Dorian in the 2 through 4 spot. Walkowiak dominated most of today, and you'll see who gave him a run for his money later. So lap 57, first pit stops of the day, Reed Conway, the rookie, off of 2 bad performances. He's the first one to duck into the pits. Then lap 64, pit stops are still going around, and the 82 car gets loose and going down the backstretch just spins and slows everyone down. This picture doesn't really do it justice. I wish I had a video recorder for this particular accident. But Tommy Morello ran into the back of Daniel Alderson. You can see kind of some damage on the front of the 21 car and the back of the blue and yellow 50 car. So I took the screenshot, came out of the game, pasted in paint, and then came back, and it was under caution. And then I noticed the 19 car of Dylan Fisher was out of the race. So was Tim Bowen, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird, because it wasn't even a bad accident." And I remember seeing Fisher about a second behind this accident. So what I imagine is Fisher, like an idiot, runs full speed into Bowen, because the game glitched out sometimes, and you can drive through players. Or I see AI drive through each other, especially during pileups like this. So both cars retired because of an accident. Bowen really couldn't afford it because he was so far back in points, and Fisher dropped a bunch in points too, which we'll get to later. But Yeah, so lap 64 was quite a mess. And so that happened while pit stops were underway, and only 4 cars were on the lead lap at lap 70. So we have Zach Dorian, Joey Wakowiak, Kevin Richmond, and Drew Tabulov all in the lead lap. This is how they came out of the pits when they pitted under caution. And then 16 cars on the inside. And from there, it was a wild race. Lap 121, you could see the damage to Tommy Morello from the accident with Bowen, or Alderson, and then you could see some slight damage on Patrick Cobb Jr.'s. So, look, this wasn't even like half of the day Morello had. Morello had a wild day still to come. Lap 127, pit stop start again. There's last week's winner, Davis McAfee, and Daniel Alderson pulling into the pit road. So pits cycle through, and the 25 is still ahead. You can see the 2 car chasing him turn behind him, but I don't think Tabulov led today at all. Lap 181, Alderson's bad day comes to an end. You can see his damage from the 21 car, and he what did he do? He had a car electric problem. So he had an electrical problem and retired from the race on lap 181. Lap 188, Wakowiak hits lap traffic. You can see 2 cars pitting down below. Cobb, McAfee, Barros, and the orange car is Michael Atkins. Those are all lap cars he had to go through. And then the 2 white cars off in the distance, Kevin Richmond and Drew Tabulov, they were able to close the gap to the 25. Lap 220, leader pits, and the 17 takes the lead. But they were on a different pit schedule than everyone else, so they could go a few laps longer. But the 17 took the lead, and then when he went into pit, the 25 came back. So there's a picture of Richmond for you all. So lap 250, the 25 car hits lap traffic again. You see every lap car right there. Then 12 laps later, pit stops start again, and Drew Tabulov came into pit, and the 17 car took the lead from that point. Moving on to lap 304, you can see Richmond lapping more cars. I think there was only 2 cars on the lead lap, and you can already imagine who those were: the 17 car and the 25 car. And yeah, so everyone else was a few laps down. Next, so alright, moving back, Richmond would come into pit, and while Wakowiak was being stuck behind tons of lap traffic. So that allowed Richmond to come out just in front of Joey Wakowiak, as you can see in lap 312, with Anthony Wick in between both of them. That remained the same till 20 to go. Wick eventually got around Richmond, and Wakowiak was right there looking to pass Kevin Richmond for his second win in Sim Cup. Richmond had not won in Sim Cup. And then finally, with 11 to go, Reed Conway was pulling down to pit, and Tommy Morello was on the inside and just cut him off, and they both spun. Didn't hit the wall, but this was enough to bring out a caution. So you can see with 10 to go, the 2 lead lap cars on the outside, and then every other car on the inside. And this set up for a wild shootout with 10 to go. With 7 to go, Richmond was still leading Wakowiak, and Wakowiak really couldn't make any any progress on the 17, even though there wasn't any lap traffic near them. 5 to go. Morella's bad day finally ends with the car retiring due to a gearbox. And yeah, that's probably one of the worst days in Sim Cup for a driver. I know last year Carl Flint had 3 separate accidents at Bristol, but to have 2 really bad accidents, not really your fault, and then to blow up is just awful. With 2 to go, Walkowiak looks to the inside and pulled up even with Kevin Richmond, but Richmond got the corner, or got the momentum coming out of turn 2, it looks like, and Richmond was able to take the lead. And then on the last lap, Kevin Richmond came around and won by a car length over Joey Walkowiak. This was his first win in Sim Cup. Dumas Racing's second win. Scott Unger, when he raced for Dumas last year, won at Indianapolis, and Kevin Richmond had an awful season. But this is probably why Dumas kept him around, because he could surprise everyone and win at Darlington. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that recording, and I'm going to move on to the race results. So Richmond and Walkowiak were the first 2, and they were on the lead lap, so pretty much everything else was a lap down. Oh, pretty much, it was. So you had 2 cars, 1 lap down, Reed Conway and Matthew Sparrows. Conway finished 21st both races before this, so a 3rd place is excellent. Anthony Wick with his 2nd, 5th place finish in a row, and that's a very good improvement from last place at Homestead, then to 5th place finishes. Zadici and Barros, they both were really far down in points, so this is a good points day for both of them. Carl Flint, Scott Unger, Jason Severn, and Drew Tabuloff finished 10th place. And Jim Powers finished 11th, just outside the top 10. Zach Dorian, then Michael Adkins, Davis McAfee, Ricky Brackett, Patrick Cobb Jr. with damage, Brendan Irons, and then Carson Fitzpatrick finished 18th, the last car running. And then the 4 retirements, Tommy Morello, Daniel Alderson, Dylan Fisher, and Tim Bowen. And moving on to the standings, Kevin Richmond was 2nd going into this race, so a 1st place finish really put a gap on the field. He's at 505 points, then 29 back is Davis McAfee, then 70 back from Richmond is Drew Tabulov. Then you got Adkins, Powers moves up to the top 5. Joey Walkowiak jumped 12 spots with the 2nd place finish. That's how tight all of these cars are running. Ricky Brackett, Anthony Wick now in the top 10. Daniel Alderson, our first rookie, is running 9th despite dropping from 3rd place in standings. Jason Severn is tied with Alderson, and Patrick Cobb Jr. is right on the outside, 109 points behind Richmond. Then Scott Unger, Carl Flint, Matt Zadici, Zach Dorian, Matthew Sparrows, Brendan Irons, Tommy Morello, Reed Conway, Dylan Fisher, Carson Fitzpatrick, and Tim Bowen. Tim Bowen just really needs a good run. I don't think he has a top 10 this year. Yeah, I mean, any of these drivers really could use a top 10. I know probably Fisher and Conway, they had good runs, but I know Fisher has 2 DNFs and Reed Conway has 2 21st place finishes. I think Tim Bowen has 2 DNFs too. So any of these drivers could really use a good points day next week. So add all those together, and here are the team standings. Dumas Racing takes the lead over Fletcher Autosport. They have 901 points combined. Fletcher Autosport is just under 50 behind him. KMI Racing, Revolution, Creechin, North Star, Big Stuff Racing, Team Harden, Taylor Motorsports in 9th, Burmy Bros, and then finally Irish Lads Racing. So that's it from me. Uh, so just yeah, same thing as always. Find us at mock_sports on Twitter, and you can look us up on Facebook and subscribe below on YouTube. And you can follow anything SimCup at simcupseries.blogspot.com. I just finished doing a bunch of stats, and all the standings are on there. Hopefully we have a few new followers today, or this week rather, because I've been trying to get the series out there. But if this is your first video, please go back and rewatch the Homestead and North Carolina race. But that's it from me. We're at Martinsville next week for 500 laps on that tiny paperclip. What else? I think that's it. You can follow me at MichaelDanger19 on Twitter. But yeah, thank you, and see you next week.